Hi everyone, I'm Anthony and welcome to Property Q&A, where I am happy to answer your questions about anything to do with property. You can ask a question on my Facebook page, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, or if you prefer to ask me privately, you can message or email me. So let me start off with my first question, and this came on my Facebook page from Colin Chapman. Hello Colin. And Colin wrote, "Hi Anthony, my wife and I had an offer accepted just before the lockdown. If the property market is volatile at the moment, do you think we should withdraw our offer?" Well, Colin, I'm sure there are thousands of people up and down the country who are asking themselves the very same thing, and I can think of several reasons why you should not. First of all, do not believe the media hype that you have been reading over the last few weeks about the property market falling by X amount, etc., etc. Obviously, we were under lockdown with strict instructions that if there were any possible way not to move, you should not. So realistically, the completions on properties should have been negligible. A massive drop, over 90% drop. That does not reflect in a drop in prices. Secondly, we were already experiencing a surge in demand for property in the new year following 2-3 years of uncertainty because of Brexit. It literally just got going, and then we came into this crisis and it all ground to a halt. And now it will only increase because the statistics show that there are many people throughout the country who have taken this time working from home and actually reassess their working lives, and the research shows that many people will now be moving to different locations with the intention of working from home. Another reason being, I don't know what your situation is because you didn't mention anything about whether you had an offer, a decision in principle, or whatever the case is. So I'm going to respond as though I'm going to assume that you had just a decision in principle. That may not apply now, it may do. Bear in mind that although a lot of the lenders withdrew offers after the lockdown, this was nothing to do with economic forecasts, it was to do with practicality. So lenders, or most lenders, withdrew products over 60 or 70% simply because they could not do physical valuation, so they would have to do what's called desktop valuation, basically taking the figures from an assumed valuation of the property and then guesstimate the price. When there is a loan to value of 60, 70% at the most, they have got some leeway. But when you're going above that, they don't have any leeway, so they withdrew those products temporarily, and those products will be coming back on the market. However, we don't know how long that will take. So if you were in process, if you did have an offer is only valid for 3 months. I'm sure that an offer will be honoured because it is an offer valid for 3 months. And that is why, in the event that you do have an offer, I would strongly urge you to take it up and go ahead with the purchase. Another reason being, for the reasons that I have said, is I do not anticipate any fall in demand or prices. On the contrary, there may be a few distress sales here or there because of circumstances, but they will be snapped up immediately by people ready and waiting with wads of cash. So I really would not go from a situation where you are in a position to move to starting from scratch, because you may handicap yourself and you may end up seriously regretting it. If you want anything further, please message me directly, no problem at all. The next question is from Eleanor Hanyotis. Hi, do you know if there are any 85% loan to value mortgages available? The mortgage I had a decision in principle on before the lockdown was withdrawn, but the house I'm after is still available, but I only have 15% deposit. Well, Eleanor, if you had a decision in principle, that wasn't an offer, so I understand what's happened. If you refer to my response to Colin, that explains why the higher loan to value products were withdrawn. but many are reappearing on the market as we speak, and I know that there are many available out there. So what I would suggest in the first instance is, if you would like, you can contact me. I will put you in touch with our colleague from the Mortgage Advice Bureau, who is a whole of the market broker, and I know because I interviewed him a week or two ago that there are products in that range available, and I'm sure that's changing every day. At the moment, we're in a very fluid situation. As valuers are able to physically visit property, then the lenders will take that into account and gradually reintroduce these products. So I wouldn't worry too much, because it's only a matter of time before that product is available in the sort of loan to value range that you are looking for. Now on LinkedIn, I have a question here from Mark Jeffries. Thank you for your question, Mark. Wonderful topic, Anthony. I'm trying to work out the best way to hand over my home to my children to avoid any complications in the future. But my wife is concerned that she could be bullied out of her home if anything happens to me, as she is their stepmother. I've inquired about trusts, but they seem to be expensive, and I'm not completely convinced that she will be safe. Have you had any similar experiences? Any suggestions? Yes, Mark, I have, and I'm only going to make a suggestion here. I am not a financial advisor, so anything I say is, have you considered this, or something that you should consider? And then if you are interested, please message me and I will refer you to someone who can actually advise you accurately. But as a ballpark, when you're handing over a property, many people, I don't know what your age is or your situation, but many people at some point decide that they would prefer to hand over their property to their children, so that everything is done and settled if the worst should happen, so that their wishes are actually met, because they want to carry out their wishes themselves rather than leave it, say, in a will or whatever the case may be. The problem is, if you hand over your home, then you don't own your home. So how do you protect the person who lives there? There's many options. As you said, you've looked at trusts. I don't know too much about them, but a trust is basically a third party taking control of your assets, and you are reliant on them conducting your wishes with due diligence. I can't comment on that. I know that there can be fees involved. I don't know how practical it is for just one home. It's different where there's masses of wealth and lots of properties, big corporations, but for an individual, I'm not too sure how feasible it is economically. There are other methods that people do to protect themselves when they hand over property. There's cautions, there's charges. Each one has their advantages and disadvantages. For example, a caution seems like a charge, but it is not, because the person who owns the property where the caution is registered against can go to the court with a good case, and it is at the discretion of the judge whether to lift that caution or not. So it's often used in divorce cases. You know, cautions are often used in divorce cases where they hand over the property to one who has the children, but they register a caution for the other party to protect their interest in the property for when the children grow up. But what normally happens is, by that time, the other party has gone off and bought their home, and the first person who's living in the home simply applies to the court, and more often than not, if they have a sympathetic judge, they just waive the caution, and then the other person has literally walked away with nothing. I know that has happened. I don't know if that happens now. Now, a charge is a fixed charge against the property. However, a charge is an asset. So any charge that you register against a property, again, I don't know your position, I don't know what your estate is worth, but a charge is added to your estate, or the value of it. It is considered an asset, and death tax can be charged upon it. So you need to bear that in mind and get advice from a financial advisor or an accountant where that goes. For me, I would point you in the direction of something that not many people know about. It's actually a law that goes all the way back to the Romans, and it's called usufruct, a usury law. And it's used more on the continent than here nowadays, but it is valid in this country. What that would mean is that if you decided to hand over the property to your children, you could register an usufruct or a usury charge to your wife, and that gives her the right to use the property as if it were her own for the rest of her life. It was initially founded for land, so basically you could give somebody usufruct against land and they can use it as their own for as long as they live, but on their death that charge dies. And you can do that with a property. And if you were to give your property to one or more of your children, even if your wife's name was not on the property, if she has an usufruct registered against that property, that gives her the right to use that home as her own for as long as she lives, and it is basically cast in stone. If that is something that suits you, you do need to get the correct legal advice. It has to be done properly, as with everything else. So from my point of view, it's merely a suggestion for you to explore, but I would definitely recommend that you consider that as one option and get advice. Once again, if any of these are of interest to you and you would like further information, please feel free to message me or email me privately, and I can give you a little further information and point you in the right direction to get advice on this matter. Next question came from Michael Bateman. Thank you, Michael, for your question. Hi, Anthony. We had our eye on a beautiful home, but our sale stalled due to the lockdown. I'm now concerned that we won't sell in time to buy this house. Do you have any suggestions, please? Thank you. Well, Michael, as it happens, I do. If you've seen any of my other videos, I actually had an interview with our colleague Sarang, who works with the Mortgage Advice Bureau, just a couple of weeks ago, and we discussed this very issue because we had a similar case last year. Now, there is every chance that you may miss the property that you are after. So what do? Well, we had a similar case last year, but in that situation, the people did have an offer, but I felt that they could have got much more. And I was trying to investigate the possibility of them being able to buy their property that they wanted before they sold the one that they had, so that they could hang it out and get a better offer. When I spoke to Sarang, we came up with a solution. I'm taking the credit again. Actually, it was him that came up with the solution, but I took the credit. Anyway, what he did was he arranged development finance on the property that they were buying, and that's normally the range of 60 to 65% loan to value of the property that they wanted to buy. He raised the rest of the purchase price against their existing home. Then the people were able to slowly work on the property that they had bought while they waited for a better offer on their existing home. And as it happens, they got an offer that was significantly higher, and that difference actually covered all their financing costs. And in the meantime, what he did on the finance that he arranged for them on the property that he was going to buy, he did something called a roll-up deal, which means that you don't pay anything along the way, and it's normally a 6-month deal, and at the end of the 6 months you will repay the capital balance plus the 6 months rolled up interest. But in these situations, if the property that you are after is something that you've set your heart on, then it can sometimes work out in your favour, even financially, because you won't have to go for a distress sale on your own property, and you will have, months and months to get a better price for your own home. And if you offset the extra that you'll get your own home, that may cover part, some, or even all of the financing costs for the property that you're going to buy. Once again, If this is something you're interested in, please message me privately. I can refer you to Sarang, or he could refer you to somebody in your own area for further professional advice, but it is definitely possible. So that's all for this episode. If you have any further questions for me on anything relating to property, please message me below in this video, message me via my page, or email me directly, and I will see you in the next video.